That was a long response, but it was very.
No,
that was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
So, I want to see how you want to help the Latino community, like in the music, acting, and in the movie industry.
Oh man, I just want to tell all the Latino community that I got your back. I know how hard it is to be a mulata, being, an Afro-Latina like I am in this business. It is difficult, but it is not impossible. You have to see that the doors will open up for you. That's number one. Never see it impossibility, because the first person that needs to champion for you is you. So if you don't believe in you, why are you going to go ask somebody else? Hey, by the way, like, I totally don't believe in myself and my talent. Do you? Like, convince me so that I don't feel like a dummy. No, you need to believe in you first. And what I want to tell all the Latino community is, I see you, like, I hear you. I know the struggle that it is, but you do belong in this industry. There needs to be more representation. And one person, two people, three people are not going to cut it. It's all of us. But what takes is talent. Y'all have to dedicate yourself to your artistry to be the best. Because you can't just say, oh, okay, I deserve it because why? Just because of the color of your skin? No, you got to earn it, because everybody out there is the best at what they do. That means that you need to be the best as well. And what I want to do is be able to support causes, industries like you girls that are doing things for Latinos. I want to support channels. I want to support podcasts. I want to support people who are trying to strive to let that Latino community be felt and seen and known. I want to support what you're doing, so then that can broaden out, so that people can see we support each other. Because that's the first thing we got to say is, I got your back. You got my back. Great. Now let's get his back and let's all do this together. And then that way it brings power, because there's power in numbers. There's power in conviction. If we're you have a conviction about standing next to each other and besides each other and supporting each other, then that's what the industry sees. They're not going to invest in somebody who's like dogging this project because, this person wasn't dark enough, or that person wasn't light enough, or that person, I don't know. If you support those projects, that's what the industry sees. They'll invest in those projects. So if we support each other's talents, it's just a matter of time, because it's just attraction that's going to start. And then it becomes this beautiful combination of love, support, and visibility.
Yeah. Support for sure.
See, now for all of our moms out there, because we know that we have a lot of insightful babes who are mommies out there.
Yes.
I want you to go ahead and give them an advice. Maybe they're trying to keep on following their dreams, but I know that it's hard. I'm not a mom, but I've seen friends and my own family members who are moms, that it's not so easy, right? Having to take care of your kids and then following your passion or your dream. So what is one way or an advice that you can give to all of those moms out there?
I'm a mom of 7 kids, so I totally understand how difficult it is. And not all the time have I had somebody that can help me, and my family lives far from me. But one thing I can definitely say is, when you want it, you make time. You'll find the energy to do it. You just have to stop saying, I can't because. I can't do it. No, there is no I can't. It's let's figure out a way. All right, what does that mean? How much time do you spend on social media or feeling bad about yourself? Just flat out. Because sometimes we talk bad about ourselves so much that exhausts all the energy to actually do something. So it's more like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes. Start with a small, obtainable goal, especially moms out there. I know the juggle. I know the struggle. My kids range from 27 to 2. So everything in between. So I understand from, Mommy, I don't have a dress to go to my school dance, to I just poop in my pants in the bath and I don't take it out with my hands. Okay, that happened yesterday and I had to go in there. It's gross. It's gross, ladies. It's gross when you see those floaters. I'm being honest. This is insightful babes with babies. Okay, I get you. So you just have to start with obtainable goals. So you say every day, 10 minutes, I'm going to spend only on me. So talk to your significant other, to your abuelitas, your tias, your next door neighbor. Watch my kids, 10 minutes. Put the cartoon on, póngale Encanto por 10 minutitos. It's okay. They can watch it one more time. Take those 10 minutes to organize yourselves. And every day you spend those 10 minutes with that little list of organization. And if it's all it is I'm going to post one time today. I'm going to do this one thing for me, spend 10 minutes doing my exercise, or 10 minutes on that goal that I want to do, setting up my YouTube or getting my Instagram or whatever it is, 10 minutes. And you're going to see how those 10 minutes are not going to be enough, because you're going to be like, oh my goodness, I already finished that one task. Don't give yourself so many tasks or goals that then become so overwhelming, you never start. Porque eso es lo más fácil. Lo más fácil es que diga, es que I want to save the planet and I want to save all the whales and whatever. And you got like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
No, just go, you know what? I'm going to make one phone call towards my goal. I'm going to make one post. I'm going to work on that one story that I'm going to do. I'm going to do one story a month. Y me voy a pasar 10 minutitos por día focusing on my subject matter. And I'm going to post once a month. Don't say I'm going to post every day, 7 days a week. No, too much. Start with little, small, obtainable goals. Increase it from there. 10 minutes. Then you go to 15 minutes after another week. And then you'll find that pace. And when you get it, oh, ladies, let me tell you, you're going to start getting in that rhythm and you're not going to want to let it go. And you're going to be like, I'm making it happen. And it's going to become exciting. And that's how you get it done. But yes, is it difficult? I'm not going to lie. It is. But if you need this for you, then take those 10 minutes. They will change your life.
Yeah.
Same. What is something that you do whenever you take those 10 minutes? What is like your go-to thing?
All right. There's two things that I do immediately when I wake up. Number one, I pray. That's my first thing. That's how I ground myself. For those who believe in prayer, I do. I pray and I thank God that I opened my eyes that day. And then two, I read my scriptures. So I start my day focused on like, okay, why am I here on earth? Then I immediately go from there into, I need to do one thing today that has to do with my goal. So if it's like, I'm going to post once today on TikTok, or I'm going to post once then I make sure that goal is reached. But I write it down on my phone. So after I do those first two things, I go immediately to my goal of the day. And then I know before the day is done, I'm going to do that. So that is what I do. So then once I do that, I'm like, okay, I accomplished that one goal. And little by little, it's increased to like, now it's like 30 or 40, but I always do that. So I always make sure I do my prayer, I do my scriptures, then I fulfill my goal of the day before my day is done. And I know that I did that. And everything else is just like icing on the cake. I'm like, wow, I got to do 10, 15 things. But by writing down the things that I got to accomplish, I see that. And it's like my success. I'm like, yes, I did it.
Yeah. I love that. So you are very passionate about what you do. So can you share a little bit more about how you stay focused, and maybe like, I know you shared a couple of tips, but does maybe like something really specific that you do to just kind of stay focused on that goal?
Yeah, I would say that the one thing that I stay focused completely every day is why I'm doing it for. And I'm doing it for my family. I always keep an eye focused on the why. So keep your eye focused on your why. I do this, why? And my why is my family, my husband, my children. I want to leave them a legacy of you work, you get what you want. If you find the right path and you're consistent. And that's what I tell my kids. I'm like, no, you can't come up with the excuse that I didn't do it because ¿cuántas horas te pasaste en el internet? How much time did you play Roblox? How much time did you play with your, if you want to accomplish those things, like my kids, one of them likes to draw, the other one likes to take, classes on learning languages. I'm like, well, if you had 10 minutes, you spent 3 hours doing that, you had your 10 minutes. So I need to be the example for them. And I'm here to tell you, if you do focus your eye on your why, then you will never detract from that. Just don't have too many whys.
Yeah.
Don't have to focus on one why. One why. And my why is my family. I want to show them that you can be a Latino that doesn't come from the best backgrounds and the most money or nada, because I didn't. My dad, he used to work doing soldadura and washing windows and had a cleaning company. And he started working when he was 8 years old. One by one from Colombia, he brought his sisters one by one from Colombia and his mother, working hard, a job in Nueva York. And then he met up with my mom again, and then they got married and they struggled. And so to me, seeing them struggle showed me that there is no excuse to making it. Like there's no excuse. And I don't ever want my kids or to be an example of, well, if you kind of do work on it in a little bit, some people get lucky. I'm not one of those. I have to work at it and focus at it. And what I do is double up on the things that I want. Like I'll be washing dishes and doing my vocal warm-ups. So hey, I can wash and drill. So I double up on things. So sometimes I'm emailing and I'm listening to a song that I'm going to record that night, in the studio. And I'm like, I'm answering here, but I'm listening to that tune that I got to go hit in the booth. So double up on things. You can always double up.
Put a multitasking right there.
You got to.
That's mom power.
So I
24 hours into 48, baby.
I want to ask you, because I know like future generations, like, you know, I don't know if you guys have heard of like the no sabo kids that are going on in TikTok. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, how do you keep your kids like rooted with their, you know, ancestry and everything? Like, how do you show them that?
It's a lot has to do with the honor that I give my parents. And I love it when my parents tell their story, because I can tell my parents' story, but if they say the story, then it's like you're hearing it from the source. They don't miss a piece. So I would say for all of the kids out there, and including us, we need to learn our own stories, because, you know, we might have heard it from the tía que lo contó el tío que de repente que mi papá hizo tal cosa, but you need to go ask, hey, dad, hey, si el tío Alfonso said you did this, is that true? You got to ask, you know, get the stories from the source, because you will know yourself so much more and appreciate your roots, which is what Encanto is about. It's about how much do you really know your family? How much do you really know them? So get to have those conversations. If your mom or your dad or your grandma or your grandpa or your tío or your tía, tu hermanito, lo que sea, learn those stories, because you'll understand who you are. Because when they tell those stories, you're like, I'm a little bit like that. Like, oh, that story. Oh my goodness, that's why I do that thing with my face, because he did the thing with my face. You know, you'll understand more of yourself through that. And that's how I like to tell my kids too. Ask your grandparents, ask your tías, ask your tíos, tell them. And I tell them the stories. So by telling the stories stay alive, and the stories mold the next generation. And then that next generation grows up feeling proud of who they are, wanting to be recognized as I am a Latino, you know, because sometimes as dark skin, we can pass. You're like, I can pass for African American. I don't need them to know who I am, you know, but you should feel proud of who you are and where you came from and your roots, but you should know what those are.
So, okay, I heard from another interview that you had that you went through COVID. And this was before you got the whole news about Encanto happening. So I would want you, if you may, share a little bit about how was that experience for you?
It was the moment that changed my life completely. You know, you go through childbirth, you go through, you know, travels around the world, you go through so many things. And when you're faced with death, everything changes, because in that moment, what really matters takes center stage. And to me, going through COVID, in the moment where I realized my dreams, was the hardest, most humbling and empowering thing. And it's weird to have all those words in one, but I was fine the day that I auditioned in front of the directors, and Yvette Merino and Cherise Castro-Smith was there, and Jamie Sparrow-Roberts was there, and Jared Bush and Byron Howard. That day I was fine. I end my interview, I go to the hospital because I was feeling a little sick, and I honestly thought, ladies, aquí se lo estoy diciendo, I thought I was pregnant again. I was like, well, you know, here goes number 8, you know, so, but my, you know, I had taken home pregnancy tests, and I had been feeling, you know, very sick to my stomach, and I had thrown up a few times, but I just thought, you know what, I got butterflies from the moment or whatever. Yeah. So I tell my husband, you know what, I'm going to go to the ER. I'm going to get tested and make sure that it's, you know, not COVID or anything, or if I have something, because I had COVID back in January, and I just want to make sure I didn't catch it again, you know, because sometimes it hits you in the second wave. And so I went to get a blood test to see if it was a pregnancy, and it came out negative. And then I was like, okay, so what's wrong with me? And then they started doing more tests and more tests. And then they were like, well, let's just give you some medication for what your symptoms are. And then I kept feeling bad. And then it came to a point that I started shutting down right there in the hospital. And my legs started feeling numb, then my arms, and then I couldn't speak. And so that was the hardest part, because I tried to call my husband, and I was just like, I literally couldn't. Estaba completamente tartamudeando. My whole motor functions stopped. And then the nurse came in because I couldn't get the call button. I couldn't literally move my body to get the call button. I just had the cell phone, and I told my husband, please call the hospital, because the nurses had left me in the room. Tell the nurses I can't move. And so he called the hospital. He was freaking out because I drove myself there. And then the nurse comes in and she's like, let's take you to the bathroom and see maybe, you know, and the moment that I got up off the bed, I fell on top of the nurse. The nurse started freaking out. They put me back in the bed. Now they didn't know what to do with me. And I started panicking and I started crying. And my husband drives to the hospital. He can't get in because there's COVID restrictions. They come back with my COVID test. I'm negative for COVID. But then that's when they start running MRIs, CT scans, and going to town on every absolute test. And while I'm sitting there, I'm shutting down even more and more to where now I couldn't even move my arms or my legs, and I couldn't barely speak. And so at one point they were just like, there's nothing we can do for you. We don't understand where the issue's coming from. There's a lot of unknowns with COVID. You know, we can keep you here for observation and run more tests. And then I decided, you know, if I'm going to die, I just rather go die at home. And so I signed myself out. My husband wheeled me out in the wheelchair, put me into his car, and then we went home, and I cried because that's all I could do. I just cry. And then if I cried, I felt worse. And my husband was crying. And then I was like, if I die, I'm leaving all my kids. And how is this going to happen? And we had a friend at church, and he was a paramedic. And he said, I think you may be having, like, you have looks like you have some symptoms of like maybe a stroke. Maybe we should go to another hospital for a second opinion. And so we drove to downtown Nashville to Vanderbilt, and that was 14 hours sitting there. There were so many people that were there under quarantine with so many other issues as well. They were putting beds in los pasillos. I'm talking just right there in the walkways. They're just putting numbers on the walls. There were so many people. And I just felt like I can't die here. And they did the same thing again, ran all the tests. I couldn't move. And then again, I checked myself out. I came home. I wrote my will. I kissed my kids. And then I just like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just thought, this is when I die. And this moment, I did not know that I had gotten the role. I just knew I did the, you know, the performance in front of the directors and everything. That was my callback. And I just thought, that was a moment. I'm glad I lived that moment before I died. So I'll die happy. So I literally spoke to all my kids, left my will done. And a few days later, as my husband and I were trying to figure out what was going on, what was triggering it, what would make me feel better, I completely stopped eating because I noticed that certain gluten elements would make me feel worse. And I would get paralyzed in the shower. If I felt like I could walk a little bit, I would get paralyzed and have to carry me out. I'm telling you, ladies, you don't really truly know love until you see your husband just sitting there trying to make you smile in a moment like that, and just, you know, feeling like you had no control over yourself, no control over your body, no control over anything. And the only thing I remembered was Lin-Manuel Miranda's rap. It was the last thing I had memorized, which was the Satisfied rap, which I had performed the night before, you know, so perfectly. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You know, something that I'd done so quickly. So this is what it feels like to match with someone at your level. What the hell is a catch? It's the feeling of freedom of seeing the light. And I couldn't get the so I used that song as the last thing my brain remembered to try to get my speech going. And as soon as I would start rapping, my legs would start falling asleep, and then again my hands would start falling asleep. So that was a few days of that intensity. And when we started figuring out, let's not drink milk, let's not drink this, let's not take this, let's see what happens when we do this. My husband dándome masaje. We get a phone call, and it's Jamie Sparrow Roberts congratulating us that we got the role.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't talk. And that day I could literally. And my husband looked at me, he muted the phone, and he's like, we got to tell him you can't take this. And I was like, you call him back if I'm dead. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And so he unmutes the phone, and I just go, thank you so much for this opportunity. When do I start? That was all I could say. And I dropped down. I almost fainted after that line. And she's like, well, because of COVID restrictions. My husband took on the conversation. He was like, well, because of COVID restrictions, you get to do it. You know, you're going to have to do it from your studio. And so we were like, well, when do we start? And then they said, I think it's like 3 weeks. And so I was like focused like Rocky. I'm like, in 3 weeks, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was a miracle. Every day I was feeling stronger and better. And by the time that recording came around, I was just like a beast. I was like, But honestly, I did not know if I would get there. I didn't know. I just believed that I could.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what sometimes we fail to believe we can. And all I had was the drive of, I could see myself on that microphone. I see myself with the directors. That's every day. I saw it happen. I saw myself waking up the next day and hugging my kids. I saw myself going from the bed to the bathroom, just from the bed to the bathroom. I saw myself washing plates. Oh no, cuántos vasos yo no rompí en mi casa. Because I was just practicing. Pow! And it became funny. The kids would be like, Opa! I'm like, yeah. Then it became another one bites the dust. Another one goes, and another one goes. And we made a funny out of it. Al fin y al cabo, they would see it as, you see us at Target, and they're like, another set of cups. Yeah. My goodness. I wouldn't give up on the glass cups. My husband's like, we could just do plastic. No. I gotta win this. So yes, it is real. I know a lot of people in the world did not believe that it was real, but I tell you that I felt it, I lived it, and now that I got through it, and I was able to take my first, I'm vaccinated now and everything, which was, for a while, my doctor was like, let's see how everything goes. Now that you're feeling better, let's assess. And we were assessing a lot. But, I got to the point that I've regained my strength. And there are moments that I feel like, but I just keep my focus on my why. Again, why do you do this? Why do you want to wake up tomorrow? Why do you feel you need to do something? And so my why became very powerful, and it has ever since. And now I'm just enjoying my why, and I'm enjoying the now.
Wow.
Yeah. So inspiring.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Totalmente un milagro, honestly. We also had a friend, and she was also in one of our Insightful Babes events, Shelby Hedgecock. She suffered from COVID as well, and long COVID symptoms. She's still suffering from that. And she ended up making this nonprofit called Blooming Magnolia. By the way, shout out to Shelby. She's doing incredible things. So shout out to her for all of that. And guys, stay safe out there. Adassa, thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to know, what was your experience with working with Lin-Manuel? How was that like?
It was like working with your long unseen friends, like somebody that was your best friend like years ago, and you're like, hey, we catch up where we left off. He is the most down-to-earth genius you will ever meet. He is incredibly perceptive, insightful, bright. He can see on multiple levels. He has this way of seeing things in a story format and making sure everybody's story can be told at the same time. When he did the song We Don't Talk About Bruno, I didn't get to see the full mosaic. All I saw were these fragments, because everybody just gets everything very limited. Disney is very careful about the content and how much they put out there. And so every one of us just received little pieces, and then they would tell you, this is what's going to happen. But it's not like, okay, can I hear it now? And they're like, no. No, soon. So when I got my part and they told me what they were looking for, and then you hear Lin-Manuel Miranda singing all the parts, it's insane, because you get his genius and you see, oh, this is what he's seeing, this is what he's hearing in these parts, and how the harmonies interchange and whose part goes where. But then when you see the movie, like that scene when we're all going around the table, you got Dolores, you have, everybody just moving around, putting the plates down, Renzi's telling his story, you got, everybody just talking and singing, and Pepa, and wow, Felix. Then you feel it and you go, everybody's saying their story at the same time, and it harmonizes so perfectly. He's a genius. And when we were in the booth, it was so much fun, because he was just like sitting with his cup of coffee, and he was just talking to me, Adassa, all right, let's do this. So what are you thinking? And I'm all like, well, I heard the part, and I'm like, I'm thinking, where do you want me to do it? And he was like, well, I was thinking at this, at the octave higher or whatever. And he was explaining it to me, and I was like, I really feel maybe at this key. You want me to sing it to you and see what I'm thinking? And he was like, sure. And so I started singing and he was just like, that's the take. And I was like, yes! He was like, I love this. And so I was so cool because I think Disney has a reel where they kind of showed us a little bit behind the scenes recording. And that take that you literally see, I think it was one of that take made it into that part of the song. And it was so amazing because he directs in such a genuinely fun way. You never feel intimidated by the person you're standing beside. This is a man who is like a multiple award-winning person, yet you feel he just wants to hang out and let's do this and let's have a good time. And that performance for an artist comes through because you feel so relaxed. You feel, you know what, we're just friends here and we're all just enjoying this moment. And it makes it so intimate and so friendly that you just want to work with him again. And so when we finally saw each other on the carpet, oh man, it was just like, woo, fireworks.
What's your favorite part of the whole entire Encanto movie? Like, I know you would probably say toda película, right? But is there one favorite part that's like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is my favorite scene.
There are two. I cannot pick one because there's such extremes of emotion. That's the thing. You know, it's such emotional extremes. The scene where Mirabel and I are having that moment as Dolores and she's just like, don't tell. Oh,
la mirada.
Oh my goodness. And I'm like, me estoy desinflando, you know? And the way that the animators captured the essence of a moment that is so dramatic. And yet you notice she's not looking angry. She's just looking like, no, te vas a contar el secreto, you know? And that moment was so powerful to me because it wasn't just the prima and, you know, prima's having a moment. It was, there is an Afro-Latina sitting at the table. Because that wasn't so when I was growing up, you know, watching things with my grandma or my grandpa, que veía muchas telenovelas y muchos de televisión. Gente Afro-Latina, they were in the kitchen or they had positions of servitude, but they never had like a principal role, like la señora de la casa, you know? I mean, you would have, they were the drivers of this or that. But in this film, the directors were very keen on making it a family film that incorporated us in all of our shades and all of our beauty and every detail from the texture of the hair and our skin tones that were different, you know, like Ravi that plays Antonio and Renzi and Pepa's different than Félix y la combinación de todos los hijos, you know, all los nietos de la abuela. It made such a beautiful thing that scene to me culminates in that beautiful thing where we're all equal. We're all family. We're all there. We're all present. We're all being seen. We're all being recognized. It's a moment to me that is like, wow, this is where we are. I wish my grandmother would be alive to see this because she would have been like, oh my gosh, you know, that's me, that's you, that's him, that's them, that's all of us, you know, we're all sitting at the table. Can you believe this? And Disney made it happen. Lin-Manuel made it happen, you know? And then the other scene was the scene where the abuela is telling the story without words, you know, when Dos Oruguitas plays, that made me understand my grandmother, made me understand the story that was told to me, but I didn't really get it until it became visually real. The situation where she was displaced by her you know, with her family, where she has to find refuge somewhere else, where she loses. Am I supposed to tell all of these things? I mean, the movie's out, right?
The movie's out, guys.
I hope I'm not bursting your bubble. If that, go to Disney Plus, you'll totally get it. You know, where she leaves the place that she knew, where her babies were going to be raised, where her husband had this warm place, and her husband dies trying to save his family. And that candle is like the essence of his spirit protecting his family past his death, and to show the strength that it took that grandmother to raise that family. Why was she so harsh? She wore that same shawl. Don't you notice when she passes by the doors when she's younger and then she gets older, she's still wearing that shawl, showing that she's still mourning the loss of the love of her life, yet she will continue because his light is still guiding them. His light is still guiding them along all of their journeys. That moment is so powerful to me because I understood why my grandmother never smiled, because she was that woman in my life that had to do whatever it took for us to have the light that we have, the joys that we have, the benefits that we have now in this day and age. And I understood her so much more. And I wish I could have embraced her and been like, I understand why you were so hard. And I felt that you were hard, but you weren't. You were being caring, you were being loving. You just had your way of showing it, you know?
Yes.
So that's truly passionate. So that's the thing. That's the extremes of the emotion that this film has, that it's something fun, like a secret, and something so deep, as in the whys of why she did what she did for her family, that at first we're like, why is grandma being so mean?
Yeah.
She's not being mean. She's being protective. She's being loving. She loves you so much. She's loving you too hard.
Yes. Yes. Oigan, and sometimes I think we all know or have a tío Bruno.
Yeah.
¿Verdad?
No.
Ay, ese tío Bruno. It's such a catchy song. It's such a catchy song. I love it. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up. This has been an amazing time, Adassa. Muchas gracias to accept our invitation and have you here. It's amazing. So I would like for you to share with us. We always ask our special guests to share their favorite dicho or their favorite quote.
My favorite quote is, take a step and the path will show itself to you. Y en español, para atrás ni para agarrar impulso.
Like
ni para agarrar impulso. Siempre para adelante.
Yeah.
And of course, I got to leave you with this special part of the song that I love. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
You guys know this, right? But we don't talk about Bruno. Bruno live in fear of Bruno stuttering and stumbling. I can always hear him sort of muttering and mumbling. I associate him with the sound of falling sand. It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always left abuela and the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you understand?
Woo! Love it. Muchas gracias, Adassa. You guys, we will leave all of her information, social media platforms everywhere here on this description of this episode, so you guys can connect with Adassa. Thank you so much for sharing your story here at Insightful Babes. You are a total insightful babe.
Yes.
So
Thank you so much
for everything.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you so much for your time. And yes, follow me on social media, Adassa Official, almost everywhere. Just on YouTube, Adassa Girl, but everywhere else, Adassa Official. And yes, I finally have a TikTok, guys. 24 hours up. Already got. So finally, guys, you can find me on TikTok too. So thank you so much. And of course, support this amazing, passionate set of women that are giving you all the insights on so many people's lives. And I hope to hear some more of these podcasts. Please be supportive of this channel that is just giving light to all of us Latinos. And that's exactly what we all need.
Yes, gracias. Amor a todos. Besos y abrazos.
Besos. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to our Insightful Babes podcast. Make sure to stay tuned for more of our special guest episodes, Chisme Time episodes, and more.